just wanted to jump in and find out what was was there something that spawned your study of the languages? Was there a certain scripture, Carrie? Was there one thing, one ideology that you couldn't get past? What caused you guys to start digging deeper into the languages? And was there one scripture that you broke down at first that really was the precipice for studying more? Or how did that happen? That's pretty exciting to hear about.
I think for me personally is that when we had a gentleman, it was a divine orchestration, how a man came into our life that had some Jewish background. And I'm not going to go into that story because that relationship isn't here anymore. But I know that it was a divine catalyst because we had begun studying the letters. What people don't understand is that when you look at the letters, the Aleph through the Tav, Aleph, Bet, Gimel, Dalet, Hey, there is a spiritual journey that is outlined in the letters themselves by the meaning of the letters. And so what I mean by that is like the letter Aleph, which correlates to the A in the alphabet. It's interesting how it's called the Aleph Bet Ivri, the Hebrew alphabet. So Aleph Bet, and then we have the alphabet where all this was derived from. When you begin to look at like the letter Aleph, it has meanings to it. The symbol itself means strong. It means leader. It means ox. In the Paleo Hebrew, in the pictograph form, it's a picture of an ox head, and it has two horns, which also represents authority. It's a letter that represents God, and it's a letter that represents the Spirit. And then you break it apart in it even more because there's like 3 letters that spell the symbol. And in English, the A has no meaning. You have to be told what the A is. There is nothing. It's put together in words to form a word that then has to be defined by man as to what that meaning is. But when we begin to see that the Aleph, and then the Bet, the second letter, so we've got Aleph, the strong leader, Bet of the house, Gimel, that gathers and lifts you up, Dalet, to take you through the door, Hey, to bring a revelation. And it goes on and on and on until you get to the Tav, where it literally means the finish and completion of the covenant. So when you look at that, we began going, wait a minute here. And so I'm going to take you back to something that prophetic happened to me many, many years ago. I used to go up all the time for prayer, praying the same thing. Like I wanted the pastor to pray this over me every time. And I said, I have to have the blueprints. I need to know the blueprints for what this spiritual journey is because I'm requesting a double portion. I want a double portion. And that's what I wanted prayer for, was a double portion. Please, Father, give me a double portion. Now, having said that, having a double portion means that you have greater responsibility and you must walk in extreme integrity. You don't just get a double portion and then think, oh, I'm going to do what I please with it. No. To much whom is given, much is required. But regardless of that was just a moment in my history of asking for this double portion and wanting the blueprints. And even on my private prayer time, that was my number one prayer. Father, please give us the blueprints. We need them. Because I was looking at the way the world was going. And it was depressing to me. And it broke my heart because I'm like, we don't have love. Why can't we just get along? So when those letters began presenting themselves to us and we saw that there was the spiritual journey, both Ken and I, it was pretty easy. We're like, we need to study the language. We need to see what's going on. And that was that was at the beginning in the Hebrew Roots movement in this church. There was a pastor that was sharing just the basic information. Then when we came to our little town, a man came to town, was drawn because of certain, like I said, I'm not going to go into details, it's a long story, but he was drawn to our little community because we were joining with another family and we began teaching them about the tetragrammaton, Yod He Vav He, and that Yah is love, and showing them in scripture and talking about the ancient Hebrew wedding and how that really relates to the story of Yeshua coming for his bride. And so they had on their window, God is love. They took God off and they put Yah is love. So this man was drawn prophetically into town. He had been here many times, saw that changed, went into the diner to find out with the people, why in the world did you change that? Because he was Jewish and he had been studying the language. And next thing you know, we interact with him and he showed us a very critical piece, a huge piece. When you look at the Hebrew and Aramaic words, there's a root concept, a basic construct, and I liken it to a lump of clay. And this lump of clay has potential in it. It's static. It hasn't taken form or shape. It's potential energy. But when it's written from the root, there's always letters added or deleted to it. And when he began pointing this out to us, and then we had the basic knowledge of the letters themselves, we began to see that there was a coded message within every single Hebrew word, with letters being added and deleted and why they were specifically written that way. So with that information, Paul's letters in English, when you dig them out in Aramaic, are so deeply profound, they will wreck you from the inside out.
Nothing's what we think.
There's a lot of people that want to throw the Pauline letters out, and I totally get it. And I'm not judging people because of the English translation. I can see it being a big dichotomy that happens within the spiritual communities. You've got Christians that want to throw them out. You've got Hebrew roots people that want to throw them out. But Paul understood this code. So everything that he was writing was to the mature audience through the code in Aramaic. And the reason why Aramaic was used instead of Hebrew in the New Testament, we were told that everything was written in Greek. Well, it was written in Aramaic and then translated to Greek so that the Hellenized Jews could understand what was going on. All the Aramaic letters went to the east. The Greek went to the west. We got the Greek. It's devoid of that spiritual language in the code that was written in it. And every single author of every single book in the Bible understood this. This was really the oral tradition of how to decode the writings, and they protected it and they would teach it to their firstborn so that the firstborn of the family could be the spiritual leader of the house and be able to comprehend what these words meant, what these symbols meant. So really, it wasn't one verse in particular. It was comprehending this really deep code that it seems intricate when you start, but when you begin digging it out, it brings life. It brings life to you on the inside, and more light and an expansion of the consciousness and expanding of the heart. And then you see everything being reconciled into this beautiful oneness unity where you're neutralizing everything that you thought in the English was negative, bad, evil, in the dual system, to see how it renders in everything into this neutral position of unconditional love. And it just wrecked us. One of the big verses that I checked was the verse that says the heart is deceitfully wicked. Mm-hmm. No, it doesn't say that at all. It says the heart is melancholy. The heart is not deceitfully wicked. The heart is melancholy. And that is because we've been separated from our first love through this sake of experience when we were born into this matrix system. And our whole life is about finding that one love that we came from to bring it to make a heavenly earth instead of having heaven and earth divided, having that brought back into our matrix. And we're melancholy because we don't have it. That's why the spiritual gravity is always pulling us forward into that. So it wasn't one verse. It was the journey in the letters, and the letters began to call out to us. I had encounters in the middle of the night where literally words would come to me, and they would come to me one letter at a time. And it was like they unfolded this beautiful story to me. And I would wake up and I would have this Hebrew word that I had no idea what it was until I looked it up. And so it was telling me a story. And then I would look it up in the morning and I was just blown away because the languages are literally calling to those to dive deep, to have the mystery of you revealed. It's not the mystery of the language. It's the mystery of you being revealed through the sacred languages if you choose to partner and collaborate with them in what they are drawing you into, because they're drawing out of you that which has been hidden.